You are a baker, and it is still the middle of the night. Outside, the town is almost silent. Just the soft hiss of rain on cobblestones and the occasional drip of water from overflowing gutters. Most people are asleep, wrapped in wool blankets, dreaming through the darkness. But not you. For you, the day begins while the rest of the town is still deep in night. You lie awake on your rough straw mattress in the room just above the bakery. The faint warmth of the ovens creeps up through the floorboards, a low, steady heat, like the breath of some patient animal sleeping beneath you. You listen to the rain for a long moment. You know exactly what time it is, even without a clock. You've learned to feel it in your bones, in the rhythm of the town. The candles in the houses around you have long gone out. The last tavern song has faded. The watchmen have made their second round. It is time. You swing your legs over the side of the bed. The straw crackles softly beneath your weight. The floorboards are cool under your feet, but not cold. The far-off memory of yesterday's fire still lingers in the wood. You move quietly so as not to wake anyone else in the house. You pull on your clothes, a simple linen shirt, woolen hose, a worn apron already marked with flour from 100 earlier mornings. You tie the apron strings slowly, with practiced fingers. Downstairs, the ovens are waiting. You take a small tallow candle, touch the wick to a glowing ember in the tiny upstairs hearth, and shield the little flame with your hand. The warm, smoky scent of tallow fat mixes with the faint smell of old bread that never really leaves your clothes. You open the door to the staircase and begin to descend. With each step down, the air changes, cooler at first, then slowly warmer and warmer, until you can feel the oven room's heat breathing up toward you. At the bottom of the steps, you pause in the doorway and listen. The bakery is dark, lit only by your lone candle. In the corner, yesterday's ashes rest in the low, grey drift before the oven mouth. The workbench is bare, wiped clean last night, but still dusted with an invisible memory of flour. You can see your own breath, just barely, hanging in the air where the warmth of the oven does not yet reach. This is your world, and tonight, as on every night, that world is ruled by a single invisible law, the assize of bread and ale. You do not speak its name aloud. You do not need to. It lives in your hands, in your measuring, in the feel of every loaf you shape. It is the law that says exactly how much your bread must weigh. It is the law that fixes the price of each loaf, no matter how expensive the grain has become. It is the law that promises punishment, public, humiliating, unforgettable punishment if you cheat your neighbors. A loaf too light is not just a bad loaf, it is a crime. You imagine, for a moment, the wooden pillory in the town square, the stalks, dark with old weather and older shame, the stories the other bakers tell in low voices, of men tied to a cart and dragged through the streets, their bad loaves hung around their necks, of bakers forced to stand in the market while their underweight bread is burned before them. There are worse stories still. Stories of men who lost their ears. Stories of those who disappeared from the guild, never to return. You let those thoughts pass across your mind like a shadow, then let them go. You have work to do. First comes the fire. You kneel before the oven mouth. Right now, it is only warm, like a stone that has sat in the sun all day and then been brought indoors. You clear away the old ash, carefully, using a wide, flat shovel. Each scrape is gentle, rhythmic, a soft whisper against brick. The smell rises around you. Charcoal, old smoke, a hint of yesterday's crust. Behind you, on the shelves, dried bundles of kindling weight, thin sticks, old twigs, split bits of last year's wood, carefully gathered and stored where no rain can reach them. You place them in the oven, building a small tent of wood in the center of the hearth, a tiny architecture of fuel. Each piece touches another, leaning together, waiting for the spark. You bring your candle close. The flame shivers for a moment in the draft from the oven's open mouth, then catches. The first thin sticks begin to glow, then flare. A soft crackle fills the quiet room, tentative at first, then surer. You draw back and watch. The baker's first job is not kneading dough or shaping loaves. It is reading fire. There is no thermometer on your wall, no numbers to guide you, only color and sound and timing and years of quiet experience. You watch as the kindling takes. The small flames lick across the dry wood, curling around it, teasing it into embers. The blackened ends of the twigs turn orange, then white, as the fire begins its slow work on the heavy masonry. You add thicker pieces now, a few sturdy logs, split longwise and seasoned for months. You place them carefully, one at a time, letting each find its place in the growing bed of embers. Your hands move with a confidence that does not need thought. You know exactly how much wood your oven needs on a night like this. Outside, the rain continues to fall. Inside, the oven begins to learn the color of dawn. You listen to the fire. You hear the resin in the wood pop softly as it releases some last trapped breath of sap. You hear the rush of air pulled into the mouth of the oven and pushed back in waves of heat. This is the slow part, the waiting part, the part where a careless man might hurry, might throw in too much wood, might make the heat sharp and uneven. But you are not careless. You settle onto a small wooden stool and rest your hands on your knees. You let your eyes soften, watching the orange glow deepen along the inner curve of the oven dome. You can tell, just by the way the light falls on the bricks, how hot it is becoming. Later, when it is ready, the inside of the oven will reach what the bakers call white heat. Not a blinding white of metal in a forge, but a quiet, steady brightness. The bricks will lose their individual color and seem to glow from within. While you wait, the dough must be prepared. You stand again and move to the long wooden bench that runs along the wall. A great shallow trough sits here, a kneading trench, worn smooth over years by fists and palms. The wood has taken on a gentle shine from the oil of hands and the dust of flour. You lift the heavy lid of a wooden chest beside it. Inside, the coarse brown flour of this year's grain lies in quiet drifts, faintly sweet and faintly sour. You dip your hands into it. The flour is cool, dry, and softly rough as it runs between your fingers. Little clouds of dust rise and hang in the air, catching the candlelight in a pale haze. You scoop out the first measure. The assize waits here too, watching your hands. You do not guess. You have weights, metal discs of known measure, and scales carefully balanced. You place your flour on one side, your weight on the other, and watch as the small arm dips and rises. Not enough. A pinch more. Too much. A finger's worth taken away. When the balance is perfect, the little arm comes to rest. You exhale. You pour the measured flour into the trough. Over and over, you repeat this quiet ritual until a low, pale hill of flour lies ready before you. Next comes the water. You carry a bucket from the well behind the bakery, its surface trembling with each step you take. When you set it down, the cool, damp smell of clean water rises up to meet the warm, dry smell of the flour and the smoky breath of the oven fire. You dip your hand in. The water is cold, almost shockingly so, after the oven's growing heat. You let it run over your fingers for a moment, feeling the edge of winter still hiding in it, then scoop and pour. Not all at once, just enough to begin to turn dust into dough. You pour, then fold. Your hands sink into the flour. At first it is resistant, unwilling to come together. But little by little, as the water finds it, as your fingers work, the texture changes. It thickens, clumps, becomes heavy. There is one more ingredient. You reach for a small clay pot, carefully lidded. Inside is yesterday's gift to today, a precious lump of old dough, sour and fragrant, alive with tiny, hidden lives. You crumble it gently across the surface. The smell rises, faintly tangy, like wet stone and apples that have just begun to think about fermenting. You press it in, folding, turning, pressing again. Outside, the rain continues to murmur. Inside, your world narrows to the slow rhythm of your hands. Press, fold, turn. You lean your weight into the dough, feeling it push back, elastic and stubborn. At first, it sticks to everything, to your fingers, to the wood. You dust your hands with more flour, then go on. Press, fold, turn. The dough begins to smooth out. The surface becomes less ragged, more like the skin of a sleeping animal, warm and taut. You begin to feel the gluten waking, the invisible network of strands forming and stretching. You do not see this, of course. You only know it by feel. A dough that tears easily is not yet ready. A dough that stretches and yields, then snaps softly back, is on its way. You knead for a long, unhurried time. The room grows warmer. The oven behind you is now beginning to throw serious heat. Sweat gathers at your hairline. You knead for a long, unhurried time. The room grows warmer. The oven behind you is now beginning to throw serious heat. Sweat gathers at your hairline. You listen as you work. The hush of rain, the occasional shift and crackle of the logs in the oven, the faint, sticky sigh of dough stretching under your hands. This, more than any law, is the true heart of your trade. When at last the dough is smooth and elastic, you gather it into a great, heavy ball. You tuck its creased underside beneath it, shaping the top into a smooth dome, and lay it back in the wooden trough. You cover it with a clean, damp cloth. Now it will sit and swell and fill with tiny, invisible bubbles of air. You move back to the mouth of the oven. The fire is smaller now. The big logs have mostly collapsed into a deep, even bed of embers. You lean in and look up at the curve of the dome. The bricks no longer look like bricks. They've taken on that quiet, even brightness. White heat. To test it, you take a handful of flour and toss it gently across the hearth. For a moment, the flour lies there, pale against the darker ash. Then, in a breath, it browns, a gentle golden colour just at the edge of toasting. It is ready. Now comes the part that always surprises those who do not know your trade. You do not bake with the fire still burning. You rake it out. You take your long-handled rake and pull the embers forward. You drag them across the floor of the oven, scraping and gathering. The deep red heart of the oven is exposed as you work. One by one, you shovel the embers out into a waiting metal pan. The room fills with a richer wave of warmth as you open the oven fully. By the time you are finished, the hearth inside is clear again, save for a thin film of ash. You take a long-handled damp cloth and sweep the floor of the oven. Steam hisses up where the damp cloth touches the hot stone. The hiss is soft, almost soothing, like the whisper of something ancient answering a question you did not ask aloud. The oven is ready. The dough has risen. You return to the trough and lift the cloth. The dough has become something new, a pale, swollen hill, soft and puffed. You press your fingers softly into it. They sink in and leave dents that rise back only slowly. Perfect. Now comes the division. Once again, the law waits in your hands. Each loaf must weigh what the assize demands. Not more, not less. You take your sharp knife and cut a chunk of dough from the great mass. You place it on the scale. Too heavy. You pinch off a bit and return it to the trough. The balance lowers, lifts, settles. Exactly right. One by one, you line them up along the bench. Each lump of dough is then shaped, your fingers folding and tucking, pulling the outer layer tight, smoothing the surface. You pinch the seams underneath, turning each rough cut into a neat, round loaf. Some will be simple round loaves, the bread of common people, maslin loaves, made from a mix of wheat and rye. Others will be finer, white bread, made from the best bolted flour. The poor man's bread that fills the belly, the rich man's bread that flatters the eye. You do not judge, you simply bake. When all the loaves are shaped, you cover them with cloths and let them sit. In this small space of waiting, the world feels very still. The oven breathes its stored heat into the room. Outside, the rain softens, then fades, and the silence of pre-dawn lays like a soft cloak over the town. You take up your peel, broad and flat at the end, worn by countless loaves. You uncover the loaves. They have risen again, softened and swelled. With swift, practiced motions, you slide each loaf onto the peel, one or two at a time, and carry them to the oven. At the oven mouth, you reach in, far into the curved, hot darkness, and with a deft twist of your wrists, you lay the loaf down on the stone floor. Immediately, you can hear it. A faint, soft sound, almost like a as the cool, damp dough meets the hot, dry hearth. One by one, you populate the oven with bread. You place the heavier loaves nearer the sides, the finer ones nearer the center. When at last the last loaf is inside, you close the oven door. The world narrows again. Now you wait. You know the time by the oven's breath, by the smell that begins to leak out around the edges of the door. You sit on your stool again. You close your eyes. You listen. In the quiet of the bakery, the soft sounds of bread baking are surprisingly rich. At first, there is almost nothing. Then, little by little, you begin to hear tiny cracks. The loaves expand, their surfaces drying and tightening. Now too comes the smell. It is barely noticeable at first, a ghost of warm, wet flour. Then it builds, the scent of crust beginning to brown, of natural sugars caramelizing. It is rich and deep and comforting. You stand and open the oven door for the first time. A wave of heat rolls out, hugging your face. You squint against the brightness within. The loaves are rising still, their surfaces a pale gold. Finally, there will come a moment when your eyes and nose agree. The crusts are a deep, warm brown. The smell is rich enough that it seems to have its own weight in the air. You open the door wide now. You reach in with your peel, sliding it under the first loaf, lifting it carefully. You tap the underside with your finger. It sounds hollow. Good. Loaf by loaf, you bring them out. You set them on wooden racks. The sound of cooling bread is one of the quiet miracles of your trade. Tiny crackles and pops as the crusts shrink a little in the cooler air, as the crumb inside finishes setting. It is a soft, irregular music, like gentle rain on dry leaves. You move among the loaves, checking each. You know that when the Assize's inspectors come, they will weigh them. You run your hands over the loaves, feeling their heft, their balance. You know, here, in this moment, that you have done all you can. You have measured, you have watched the oven, you have trusted your hands. Outside, the town is waking properly now. Through the open door, you hear voices, the clop of hooves on wet stone, the rumble of cartwheels. You begin to carry the loaves to the front of the bakery. You stack them in neat rows on the shelves. The finer loaves you place together, their pale crusts almost glowing. The darker, heavier loaves you stack in generous piles. You wipe your hands, now dry and dusted with flour, on your apron. You move slowly. There is no hurry now. The hardest work is done. The oven cools behind you, its stored heat slowly bleeding out into the day. You feel tired, but it is a familiar, honest tiredness. Later, an official might come. You will take a loaf at random. You will put it on his scales. You will watch, feeling a familiar tightening in your chest. You will see the arm dip, lift, come level. If you have done your work well, and you have, he will knot once and leave, and you will feel the invisible knot within you loosen. For a few days at least, you will not be dragged through the streets on a cart. You will simply go on. Night after night, dawn after dawn, measuring, kneading, tending the fire. As the day wears on, the shelves will empty, crumbs will collect on the counter. By midday, there may be only a few loaves left. You will sweep the floor, wipe the bench, stack your tools. The oven will be nearly cool by now. You will run your hand along the bench where you kneaded in the dark hours before dawn. When the last loaf is sold, you will close the shutters. The town, now fully awake, will go on with its business. And you will climb the stairs again. The oven's warmth will follow you part way, then fade. You will untie your apron, shake out the flour over a basin, fold it, and set it aside. You will sit on your rough straw mattress, the same as at the start of the day. You will listen to the steady, familiar sounds of the town at work. You will know that tonight, when the candles go out and the last tavern song fades, you will wake, you will rise, you will go downstairs in the dark, you will light new kindling in the old oven, you will fold new flour into new water, and somewhere in that slow, repetitive, patient cycle between the crackle of the fire and the soft weight of the dough, you will make, out of grain and water and salt and time, a little certainty in a world that rarely offers any. So, as you lie there now, at the very edge of sleep, listening to the distant murmur of a town carried along on bread, the sound of wind is louder now. A dog barks in the distance. The barrier is down. The heavy oak shutter, which has protected the bakery through the long, dark night, is now hooked against the outer wall. The transition is sharp. Behind you, the bakery is still warm. The oven bricks are still radiating the heat of the fire. The air is thick with the smell of toasted crust and yeast. But in front of you, the world is blue and cold. The sun has not yet risen above the cathedral spire. The light in the street is grey, a flat, shadowless illumination that makes the cobblestones look like iron. You lean against the wooden sill. The wood is worn smooth, polished by 10,000 mornings just like this. You watch the city wake up. It begins slowly. A single figure walks past, wrapped in a rough wool cloak, head down against the wind. Then a cart, pulled by a tired mule. The wooden wheels grind against the stones, a low, rhythmic rumble that vibrates through the soles of your feet. You arrange the bread on the ledge. This is your display. This is your art. The wastel loaves, white and round, go on the left. They glow like small moons in the grey light. The maslin loaves, the heavy, working man's bread, go on the right. They are dark, dense, and solid as bricks. Steam rises from them all. In the cold air, the steam is thick and white. It twists and curls, drifting out into the street. It is a signal fire. It tells the street, we are ready. The first customers are not here to eat. They are here to work. They appear out of the fog like ghosts. Women in sturdy linen coifs, their arms strong, carrying baskets woven from willow branches. These are the hucksters, the recratresses. They are the veins of the city, carrying your blood, your bread, to the furthest limbs of London. They do not speak much. The morning is too cold for idle chatter. They approach the window. They nod. They know the routine. You begin to count. Your hands, still dusted white with flour, move with practiced rhythm. You pick up a loaf. You tap the bottom to knock off the loose ash from the oven floor. You place it in the basket. 1, 2, 3. The basket creaks as it fills. The weight settles. The huckstone watches your hands. She is counting too. 12, you say. The basket is full, but you are not done. You reach for the 13th loaf, the vantage loaf. You place it gently on top of the pile. This is the baker's dozen. It is a silent contract between you. She buys 12, but receives 13. That 13th loaf is her profit margin. It is the buffer against the drying wind that steals weight from the bread. It is the insurance against the king's law. She nods. She places her coins on the ledge. Silver pennies, small, thin. Some are clipped at the edges. You slide them off the wood and into your leather pouch. She turns and walks away, fading back into the grey morning mist. And then the next basket appears. The sun finally breaks the horizon. The grey light turns to a pale, watery gold. Shadows stretch long across the street. The air warms, just a fraction. Now come the servants. They come from the great houses behind the high walls. They wear livery, tunics of blue or red, and they carry themselves with the borrowed authority of their masters. They do not want the heavy muslin bread. They point to the white loaves, the finest wheat. You hand them over. The crusts are still crisp, crackling slightly as you squeeze them. These customers are critical. They are discerning. They inspect the loaf. They look for the color of the bake. Is it too dark? Is it burned? They check the bottom. Is there ash stuck to it? You wait. You hold your breath. The servant nods. It is acceptable. A coin is slapped onto the counter. This time, it is a good coin. A full penny shining in the new sunlight. The face of King Edward stares up from the silver. You sweep it into the pouch. The street is busy now. You watch the theatre of the medieval city from your window. A blacksmith walks by, his apron black with soot, smelling of coal. A priest hurrying to mass, his robes sweeping the mud. A group of children running, chasing a dog. You are separated from them by the wooden ledge. You are the observer. You are the stationary point in a moving world. And then the mood changes. A shadow falls across the ledge. You look up. It is the beadle, the market inspector. He carries a set of portable scales, hanging from chains that chime like a warning bell. Your stomach tightens. It is a reflex. Even though you weighed every loaf, even though you check the scales by candlelight, there is always the fear. He does not smile. He does not buy. He reaches out a gloved hand and selects a loaf at random. He does not choose the best one. He chooses the one that looks slightly small, the runt of the litter. He places it on one side of his scale. On the other side, he places the iron weight. The chains rattle as he lifts the balance. You watch the beam of the scale. It tips. It wavers. It swings back and forth, seeking equilibrium. The wood of the scale groans under the tension. If it floats high, you are a thief. You have sold air instead of grain. If it sinks low, you are safe. It sinks. The bread is heavy enough. The beadle nods. He takes the loaf off the scale and sets it back on the ledge. He says nothing. He simply turns and moves to the next shop. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. The danger has passed. The sun seems a little brighter. The morning rush is over. The sun is high now, directly overhead. The shadows have retreated under the eaves of the buildings. The pile of bread on your ledge has vanished. Where there were mountains of loaves, there are now only crumbs. Golden crumbs, scattered across the dark wood like stars. You wipe the ledge with a cloth. The street quiets down. The city is eating. Somewhere, a mile away, a huckster is selling your bread to a hungry family. Somewhere, in a great hall, a lord is breaking the crust of your wastel loaf. You feel the fatigue now. The adrenaline of the morning is gone. The heat of the oven has faded from your bones. Your legs are heavy. Your eyes are dry from the smoke. You reach for the shutter. It is heavy as you unhook it. You pull it shut. The blue light is gone. You are back in the gloom of the bakery. But it is different now. It is empty. It is quiet. The fire is just a bed of soft, glowing embers, pulsing gently in the dark. The day is done. You sit on the flour sack. You close your eyes. The only sound is the rain, beginning to fall again outside, tapping gently against the wood, protecting you, letting you sleep. You can let go. The ovens are cooling. The loaves are baked. The law is satisfied. Tomorrow will come, and when it does, you will be ready.